Bishop Davis, First Lady, Pastor April, and who can forget Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Wow.
And everyone who made the last 2 years everything that they were, welcome and thank you. I'm humbled by the awards. It's truly an honor today to co-deliver the commencement speech and to the participating classmates of 2020 and the power class of 2021. Congratulations on your achievement. However, I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't say, newsflash, all we did is graduate basic training. Recently I was driving to Tampa for my son's soccer tournament, and when I was coming back, my navigation system directed me to a new direction, gave me a new journey, a new route. And so I was riding smoothly towards my new direction when I suddenly hit traffic, and the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I should have taken the road that I know best. And it's funny how God's voice changes, because that day it sounded like my 17-year-old. He said, Pops, it's the problem with this generation. Your generation, you need to trust more. Because I pulled over real quick. I was like, that'll preach. But what I clearly heard God asking is, do you trust me with the journey that I have you on? Do you trust my directions? If I led you into the wilderness, would you go? Or would you hold on to doing it your way? Speaking it your way? Acting it out your way? And as we celebrate and prepare for our next season, it's only fitting that I bring up the topic of wilderness. The last 18 months, there have been some wilderness moments in our lives. But there's value in a wilderness experience. See, the wilderness is a place where a believer tends to endure discomfort, trials, tribulations. It's a place of potential loneliness. It's a place where one feels a lack of encouragement, temptation, spiritual attacks live there. It's a place where we often worry about our worries. But the wilderness can also be a place of encountering God.
That's good.
It's a place of spiritual renewal. A place where there's room for God-ordained testing. So, as believers, there are times where we can compare ourselves to the children of Israel. When Pharaoh finally let the people go, God led them, even though it wasn't the shortest route. God led them to the promised land, but he led them in a roundabout way. He let them stew a little bit out there, right? Because God said, if the people are faced with a battle, they may change their minds and return to Egypt. So you see, God understands your spiritual tenacity. And he knows your natural strength. And he recognizes your abilities in the very midst of any moment you face. So, as Moses and the Israelites head west towards the sea, Pharaoh chases them. And the Israelites begin to complain. They begin to complain, saying, Moses, you've taken us into the wilderness to die. Can I share a divine revelation with you?
Come on.
A wilderness experience is often followed by a mountaintop achievement. So we blind ourselves with question marks when God has already put periods in place. And it reminds me, the other day I was speaking to a young lady, a dream teamer here, and she was sharing with me about her magnolia tree. She was complaining about her magnolia tree. She said, this magnolia tree is stressing me out. The roots are killing my grass. She despised the magnolia tree. Well, see, what What you don't know about a magnolia tree is that the leaves are nice and green and leather-like. And the flowers, they bloom white or pink, nice and big in early spring. So when I asked her about the beautiful flowers the magnolia tree blooms, she said, you know, I was so focused on removing the tree, I never paid attention to the flowers. So we must be careful not to be so troubled with our troubles that we fail to see the beauty of God in our wilderness moment.
That's good.
See, the children of Israel complained about the wilderness, but they failed to see the blessing of God guiding them by a pillar of cloud during the day and by fire during the night.
Let's go.
And so are we, classmates, going to be like the people of Israel, complaining about the challenges that we face? Or are we going to be like Moses, holding on to the words, don't be afraid. Stand firm and you'll see God deliver you today. See, God is saying that there's no Egyptian, there's no challenge, there's no obstacle, there's no failing relationship or physical inability. What impedes you today, you will never see again. The Lord himself will fight for you. We just have to be still and know that he's God.
Yeah.
So are you trusting God with the direction that he's taking you? Do you trust God with your purpose? Because Pastor Stephen Furtick of Elevation Church said it best. He said, whether you're being led to your wilderness by God or whether it comes from the enemy isn't the most consequential or important thing. The most significant and meaningful thing is whether you will partner with what God has in store. Don't allow the enemy to steal, kill, and destroy your purpose while living through your wilderness. Amen. Understand that Pharaoh gathered 600 of his finest chariots, his best men, meaning Satan will be pursuing you with the intensity of Pharaoh. Not here throwing softballs and marshmallows at you. And if you see that the enemy rises up strongly against you, that means that God has put a lot in you. There's a story that I saw online that is relevant to this point. An elephant and a dog became pregnant at the same time. And three months down the line, the dog gives birth to 6 puppies. And 6 months later, the dog gets pregnant again, gives birth. The cycle repeats itself. And so at the 18th month, the dog goes to the elephant and says, hey, are you sure you're pregnant? Because we started at the same time. we started this at the same time. Are you sure that you're pregnant? And the elephant said, man, there's something I need you to understand. This thing that I'm pregnant with, this thing that I have to birth is big, is mighty, is great. When I birth my purpose, my city has to feel it. My state has to feel it. When I birth my purpose, impact is made. Don't allow the enemy to steal your joy. Know that the closer you get to your purpose, the clearer and greater God's purpose will be seen in you. And if your wilderness seems complicated, it's probably because your purpose is greater than what you thought. I'll leave you with these thoughts. That which like a sea threatens to drown you shall be the highway to your escape. Pick up your staff and raise your hand over the sea that impedes you. Trust that you have the spiritual authority to divide the waters of what stands in your way. And at that moment, you will walk through the middle of the sea on dry ground.
Yeah.
Congratulations. At this point, I have the honor of presenting the next speaker, this individual, we've become extremely close friends in attempting to develop a platform for men. And it's a platform we believe strongly that men can become better fathers and better husbands, better leaders in the community. And I often call this individual the Noah of the group, because like Noah, he has favor. One of the things that Noah also did is he was obedient. So to this individual I say, build and they will come. I introduce Brother Alvin W. King.